one rifle, carried by cowboys, drawn by outlaws, relied upon by every lawman, settler, and rancher clinging to survival on the frontier. Between 1873 and the century's end, the Winchester 1873 spread across every territory west of the Mississippi, earning a name no other weapon has ever carried, the gun that won the West. But what that title truly cost in blood and conquest, that's the story no one tells. A battered rifle rests against a whiskey-soaked bar, its wooden stock worn smooth by 1,000 desperate hands. Brass glints beneath a haze of tobacco smoke, dulled by years of sweat and grit. Fingers trace the cold steel, feeling the grooves where the finish has faded. Each scratch a memory of dust storms and gunfights. The lever's arc is heavy, deliberate, a metallic click, then a sharper snap as the action cycles, echoing off the scarred floorboards. Cartridges rattle in the magazine tube, brass casings chiming softly with every shift. The scent of gun oil lingers, mingling with spilled liquor and sweat. In this moment, the Model 1873 is more than a tool. It's a promise of power, a lifeline in a world where survival hangs by a trigger pull. Here, in the hush before violence, the rifle waits, silent, patient, inevitable. Iron rails cut through the prairie, carving a path for progress and peril alike. When the Denver Pacific linked Cheyenne to Denver in June of 1870, the frontier's lifeblood began to flow faster than ever before. Boxcars packed with rifles, ammunition, and hope thundered west, their cargo bound for towns where law and lawlessness were often the same. At the Abilene railhead, the market exploded in 1871. Cattle poured in by the tens of thousands, and with them came the need for firepower. Merchants became the new gatekeepers, trading Winchester rifles by the crate to cowboys, ranchers, and drifters. Freight manifests from Union Pacific listed rifles alongside grain and lumber, proof that the Model 1873 traveled the same arteries as every other necessity. The rifle's journey from distant factory to a saloon shelf or a saddle scabbard was measured in days, not weeks. Across the dust-choked trails and steam-choked depots, commerce and survival moved hand in hand, each shipment forging the legend a little further west. Steam hisses through the rafters of New Haven's red brick factory as the day's first shift files in. Hammers ring against anvils, forging barrels from raw steel heated to a dull orange glow. Sparks leap as receivers are pressed into shape under the weight of drop hammers, each blow measured, every contour checked by calloused hands. Assembly lines snake across the floor, men moving in practiced rhythm, each station dedicated to a single task: rifling, bluing, fitting stocks, tightening screws. It takes 12 man-hours to birth a single Model 1873 from ore and timber, yet the factory's heart pounds out 15,000 rifles in a single month by 1882. Oiled gears turn overhead, driving belts that power lathes and milling machines. The air smells of coal smoke and hot metal, punctuated by the sharp tang of gun oil. Workers in leather aprons pass rifles from bench to bench, eyes narrowed for flaws that could mean life or death on the frontier. Oliver Winchester himself walks the aisles, coattails brushing sawdust, inspecting the rows of finished carbines stacked like cordwood. Serial numbers are stamped, each rifle marked for a journey west. Here, in the relentless grind of metal and sweat, precision is survival. Every rifle must feed, fire, and cycle without fail. The promise of the West begins not in the dust of a cattle trail, but in the measured cadence of men and machines forging power, one lever action at a time. A gunsmith's fingers press brass cartridges through the side-loading gate. each round vanishing into the darkness of the tubular magazine. The gate snaps shut with a muted clang, sealing the lifeblood of the rifle behind a steel door. This side-loading gate, Nelson King's answer to grit and chaos, meant the Model 1873 could be reloaded in the thick of a cattle stampede or a midnight standoff. No need to fumble with the awkward muzzle-end loading of the old Henry. Beneath the barrel, the magazine tube holds anywhere from 7 to 12 rounds, depending on the length, a silent promise that the next shot is always within reach. Inside, the feeding cycle is a clockwork ballet. The spring-loaded follower presses cartridges forward, each rimmed 44-40 caliber or 38-40 caliber waiting its turn. When the lever drops, the carrier block rises, snatching a cartridge from the tube and lifting it to the chamber. The bolt slams forward, locking up with a sharp click, a mechanical heartbeat ready to unleash another thunderclap. High-speed tests show a practiced hand can cycle all rounds in under 20 seconds, brass flying, smoke curling, the rifle's rhythm unbroken. The Henry's open slot let dust and rain foul the action. The Model 1866 fixed that with a wooden forearm and King's gate, but the 1873 pushed further, with tighter tolerances, stronger steel, and a feeding system that shrugged off mud and blood alike. Each improvement built a lineage of reliability, forging a weapon that could be trusted when the world turned savage. In the hands of a frontier survivor, the 1873's magazine was more than a reservoir. It was a lifeline, and every round loaded through that gate was a wager on tomorrow. A cowboy rides out before dawn, the Winchester laid across his saddle, barrel glinting in the pale light. The carbine's compact 20-inch length slips easily into a leather scabbard, ready for a quick draw when a coyote circles the herd or a stranger crests the ridge. In the dry grass beyond the fence line, a homesteader stands guard, rifle balanced in calloused hands, eyes tracking the horizon for flickers of movement, whether rustlers, wolves, or the hard edge of hunger. The Model 1873 is never far from the door, propped beside a battered lantern, its presence as constant as the prairie wind. In the dust-choked heart of Dodge City, a town marshal unlocks the armory, Winchesters lined up on wooden racks, each one a silent partner in the uneasy bargain of frontier law. Since 1878, the city's badge wearers have trusted the rifle to hold the line when tempers boil over in the saloon or outlaws ride hard for the edge of town. The same rifle rides shotgun on stagecoaches, leans against bunkhouse walls, or rests across a gambler's knees beneath the flicker of oil lamps. From cattle trails to clapboard jails, from sod houses to the iron rails of the railroad, the 1873 is a fixture, worn smooth by the grip of 1,000 lives, its steel echoing the pulse of a restless land. Before legend takes hold, it is simply there, a tool for survival, a badge of authority, a companion in the long shadow of the West. A single phrase thundered across the country, the gun that won the West. It first appeared in black ink on the 1874 Winchester catalog, stamped beneath an engraving of the rifle held high above a prairie horizon. The words leapt from newsprint to posters, spreading like wildfire in city papers and penny dreadfuls. Merchants pinned the slogan in shop windows from Kansas City to San Francisco, while traveling shows printed it on banners that fluttered above crowds hungry for stories of outlaws and lawmen. Dime novels borrowed the line, weaving it into tales of midnight ambushes and last stands. The rifle's name became a badge, a boast, a warning, repeated in bar rooms, whispered on the trail, and etched into the backs of wanted posters tacked to clapboard walls. Winchester's campaign turned cold steel into legend, convincing the nation that this rifle wasn't just a tool, but a promise of survival and power. In the shadow of that slogan, the Model 1873 crossed a line. It was no longer just a weapon, but a symbol that could shape the fate of anyone bold enough to carry it. Night falls on the Platte River, and a ring of wagons stands silent under a blood-red sky. Inside the circle, settlers clutch their Winchesters, knuckles white, breath caught in the hush before chaos. When the attack comes, it is sudden. A rush of shadows, arrows whistling, war cries tearing the night. The first lever drops. A volley erupts. 30 rounds in 10 seconds. The sound rolling like thunder across the prairie. Flames leap from muzzles, smoke choking the air, brass casings tumbling into the grass. In that storm of noise and fear, the rifle's promise of survival becomes real and terrible. Every shot buys another heartbeat, but each trigger pull carves a deeper mark on the soul. Out on the open plain, a posse rides hard, dust boiling behind them. Lawmen and ranchers lean from their saddles, rifles braced, eyes locked on the silhouettes fleeing toward the horizon. When they close the gap, the air crackles with gunfire, rapid, relentless, unforgiving. The Winchester's rhythm is mechanical, almost inhuman. In those brief seconds, the line between justice and vengeance blurs, and the land remembers every echo. Inside a crowded saloon, tempers flare and hands drift toward holsters. One man's mistake, a harsh word, a twitch, triggers a cascade of violence. Patrons dive for cover as repeating fire shatters the lamplight, splinters wood, and fills the room with panic. The rifle's speed leaves no time for second thoughts. When the smoke clears, the silence is heavy with regret and awe. The Winchester, 1873, gave ordinary people the power to decide fate in an instant. But every rapid shot came with a price, fear, guilt, and the knowledge that survival on the frontier demanded more than courage. It demanded a willingness to cross a line that could never be uncrossed. Steel and ambition once redrew the map of a continent. Today, as debates over violence and identity rage, the echoes of that firepower still shape America's soul. Legends aren't buried, they reload. Out here, survival and myth remain locked forever in the chamber. Share what the frontier means to you below.